Time conquers all is the tagline of the game Pendulum from Stonemaier Games. The tagline isn't quite right, so I'm going to fix it. Time conquers all players' enjoyment of the game. Ouch, too harsh? Sorry, but it should give you a sense of how this review is going to go. Note that I'm usually pretty positive in my reviews. I find a couple of negatives to discuss, but mostly I like to cheer on a game. I'm telling you now that it's going to be hard to do. Pendulum is a real-time game for 1 to 5 players. The game is designed around sand timers, which affect how many actions a player is able to do and how often. To replicate the restrictive nature of these timers, I will use them in my review. The 45-second timer has been running during this introduction. I'll use the 2-minute timer for my rule summary, and then the 3-minute timer will run during the segment in which I give my thoughts. 45 seconds is up. Let's move on. In Pendulum, the Timeless King has disappeared somehow, and he needs a successor. Players compete to become the next true ruler of some fictional kingdom whose name I can't pronounce. At its core, Pendulum is a worker placement game, meaning players control workers and then place them down on spaces to perform actions, like gaining resources, province cards, executing production, you get it. The goal is to move up on 3 victory tracks: power, prestige, and popularity. Also, a legendary achievement is required to win the game. Seriously, you can have the best score, but if you don't have that achievement, you can't win. The yellow resource is money, blue is culture, and red is military. As one action, a player can conquer a province. It's a way to add benefits over here under the player mats. As another action, players can trigger one of the sections of the player mat, gaining everything shown. There's no limit to the number of province cards you can have and trigger there, until the end of the round when you have to discard down to 2 in each section. The sand timers are in 3 separate areas of the board, each one offering different actions. Here's the key rule. If a timer is present in a row, players cannot place workers there. They also cannot remove workers from there. This is the time when they will carry out the actions. But even once the action is finished, the worker must remain in the space until the timer is moved. Meanwhile, players may use their free workers to prepare for the next timer flip by placing the workers at desired action spaces. Some allow any number of workers, others are restricted to 1 worker at a time. Luckily, you can have grande workers who are allowed to break that rule. You may place and remove and change your mind about your workers until the timer is flipped onto the row they are present in. It is not that the action may be performed. Then the workers who are tied up on the rows with timers are now free to move around the board. Black and green timers may technically be flipped any number of times, but of course they may only be flipped when the sand runs out. The purple timer may only be flipped 3 times during a round. Once it's been flipped that 3rd time, players can still finish their actions, but no more timers may be flipped. After the 4th round, the game is over, and whoever has a legendary achievement and has moved their markers up the tracks the furthest wins the game. I like the concept of the game. It works to an extent. You know, I like real-time games. Most of them I enjoy, not this one. And I'll get into that in a bit. But one reason why I like real-time games is because it's a great brain exercise. Thinking in real time, planning on where I'm going to go, looking at when the time is going to run out. I love the way that works, thinking in the brain. Now, moving on to the components, there's some that just I don't understand. The timers, for example, I think the bottom should be flat instead of rounded because these are easy to knock over. The player mats feel like sandpaper. I don't understand the reason for that. And then in the timers, sand gets stuck sometimes. It's problematic because the main mechanism of the game has a problem, then that's going to affect things. And sometimes you can't even tell what's going. So moving on, I like the whole workers are stuck until timers are moved, timers run out. But that's restrictive. You don't get the chance to do very many actions. So like in the green and purple for especially, you just don't have the time to do all the actions that you want to. You only have 3 opportunities to do purple actions, unfortunately, so you can't do what you want to do. And the rounds aren't long enough. Again, only flipping the purple timer 3 times, you don't have enough time to build a good engine. There's some really cool things that you could do, but because of the time being restricted, you can't do it. For example, the province engine. You can really get things going there, but you can't because at the end of each round, it resets. So unfortunately, that's a miss. The game is dependent on who flips the timer. So whenever you do your actions, you know, if you want to wait and hold off on what's happening, but someone else flips the timer before you, that's going to mess you up, and I don't like that. Now the solo mode is good. There is a way to play untimed, which I don't understand. This is a real-time game. Why would you play it? You know, it's good for learning the game, but why would you play a real-time game, not real-time? It doesn't make sense to me. So scoring is nearly impossible with this game. I just don't know how you can possibly get your points all the way up to the top. I've never been able to do it before, so I don't like that. There's some asymmetric characters that you can play with, which give you extra depth and abilities and whatnot, so that's an option. I like that each person has their own resources, so you're not racing across the table. I like that you have your own pool of resources. When it comes to the votes, you know, you have these things to give you 10, 20 tokens for your votes. I don't know how that's possible. Just the way the game goes, and the way you get votes, I don't know how you would get up to 10 at the very least. Now the theme, there is no theme of the game, so don't worry about that. The legendary achievement, which is very important, you have to get that to win the game, but you only have 4 opportunities to get that because there's one for each round. Especially if you're playing 4 or 5 players, how are you going to, the 5th player going to get one? There's one other opportunity through the use of this board over here, but that's it. You have to have 10 resources at the end of the game to get it. If nobody gets it, no one wins, and that is silly. And speaking of silly, that's the end of my review. Bottom line is, I can't recommend it. Other people will enjoy it, but as far as what I'm looking for in a game, especially a real-time game, I don't enjoy it. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw and want to see more, please subscribe. If you thought this review was lame and unhelpful, well, please subscribe. Until next time, don't take the board game hobby too seriously, just lighten up. Maybe I need to lighten up about the game, I don't know. Thank you.